Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Amid natural disasters in Kentucky and attacks on irreplaceable treasures in Utah, we're introducing you to the Americans who are solving some of the nation's most critical issues. We begin today by checking in on tornado-ravaged towns in Kentucky. Jonathan Vigliotti takes us on the long road to community members who are on the mend.
December's unprecedented swarm of tornadoes carved out an interstate of destruction 260 miles long through parts of Arkansas, Missouri, and Tennessee before bearing down on Kentucky.
And what you're seeing used to be brick buildings, historic landmark buildings.
The road to recovery is a long one for towns like Mayfield.
Good morning.
FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers invited us to see the many hurdles ahead.
So what we've got here is one of our self-loading trucks.
George Mingus directs debris removal.
How much are we talking about?
So our estimates, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2 million cubic yards of debris across the entire county.
That's on scale with the cleanup after 9/11.
And when it comes to rebuilding downtown, what that will look like is still unclear. About 50% of Mayfield's historic buildings were destroyed in the tornado. FEMA.
Meanwhile, FEMA is still reaching out to those like Kevin Reed who are living in damaged homes. Most hotels are at capacity.
By the time it gets back to where it was, I'm probably not going to be around.
Why stay around?
Well, as you can see, I'm slowly trying to pick up everything. Not going to get picked up by itself, so I stick around and help people if I can, or do whatever I can around here.
This is home.
Yeah, this is home.
FEMA. When you knock on the door, you never know what you're going to find. You may have survivors who we're actually having to register for assistance with funerals.
Brian Montgomery is FEMA's supervisor of disaster survivor assistance.
And what drives you to do this?
Just the desire to be out here, the desire to help.
Does a conversation stand out to you among the people that you've met?
I've met one family that their home's been destroyed. They're waiting on their insurance settlement to come through, but they were very upbeat about rebuilding. The community's going to come back here.
From Dawson Springs to the town of Bremen.
What's incredible is we've been driving for more than 100 miles and we're still seeing communities like this destroyed from a single tornado.
Lives and livelihoods were shattered. Bowling Green is home of the Corvette, where 186 vehicles are assembled every day.
We actually shut down for a week and a half because we had tornado damage in the plant.
TJ Massey helps build America's sports car.
But I mean, it ripped straight through here.
And now his hometown.
I just hope the community stays as engaged as they have been since the beginning.
And there are many in need.
It hurts. It hurts to know that my neighbors are gone.
FEMA says cleanup will last until at least March. And rebuilding along America's tornado interstate won't just take years, but likely generations.
Togetherness, solidarity.
The kindness of strangers has given Bowling Green resident Shanna Coleman hope and strength that the state can and will rebuild better.
There were so many volunteers early on, firefighters, some of the first responders to the scene. What did that mean to you to know that so many people were willing to come together to help out, in some cases complete strangers?
Love, just love. To meet people that I had never met, you know, come and bring food and water around and talk with us and offer help. It was complete love. And it brought Bowling Green together.
Switching gears now to a fitness gym that's building more than muscles. These strength training classes in Arizona are helping bolster mind-body connections for people facing extra challenges. Janet Shamlian has more.
The workouts are grueling in this Phoenix gym.
Stand it all the way up. There you go, David.
But muscles aren't the only measure of progress.
shoulders down, elbows up.
Some of the athletes, like Cade, are autistic.
Knees up.
Others have Down syndrome or cerebral palsy. None have taken strength training until now.
What made you think the kids needed that physical activity?
A lot of the students I was working with could not get their body to listen to their brain. I'm like, okay, well, I think we are going to do something about it.
Speech pathologist Sarah Farrison and Lily Voza, also certified trainers, created the AbleFit classes.
Bring your arms up.
Betting that newfound physical strength would lead to cognitive and emotional gains.
When he's lifting a heavy weight, it helps his mind-body connection allow him to pronunciate better.
David works out with his sister Abby. Eden comes with her dad, from different backgrounds and abilities. The training is forging friendships, building confidence.
You're doing great. All of this.
Cade, who uses a device to speak, just might express it best.
It is a gym that believes in me.
Good job, guys.
Still ahead, how Native American tribes are leading the effort to restore an iconic part of the American West. You're watching Eye on America. Millions of buffalo freely roam the American West for thousands of years, providing sustenance and an economy for Native Americans. But in the 1800s, they were hunted to near extinction by European settlers. We traveled to the reservation of the Blackfeet tribe on the plains of northern Montana to see how the buffalo have been making a comeback in the region. Buffalo are an elusive breed here on the eastern border of Glacier National Park.
They're taking off. They're taking off. Yeah, they won't wait for us, these ones.
But Irvin Carlson and the Blackfeet Nation are changing that, increasing their numbers, where only 2 herds of a few hundred remain.
But the buffalo that we're talking about, you can link to your people.
The good part about it is that they originated from here, specifically right in this area, and were a part of us, and we were a part of them.
Partnering with the Wildlife Conservation Society and several tribes, they returned 90 buffalo to Blackfeet territory, reinforcing a kinship passed through the ages.
They were our food, our clothing, our lodging, our tools. They were our whole economy. That's what we existed on them.
When the European settlers arrived in the 1800s, the delicate balance started to shift.
To get rid of the buffalo was to actually get rid of the Indians too. That was our existence. So that was the real kind of the downward trend.
In the 19th century, there were millions of buffalo that roamed this region until they were hunted to near extinction. They may have died out, if not for a novel idea in 1907 to preserve the remaining few.
The Blackfeet captured those calves and they took them across the mountains and they sold them to the Canadian government, and that's how they got into Canada. And they eventually ended up at the Elk Island National Park.
Those descendants survived there for more than 100 years. Then in 2016, Parks Canada gave the Buffalo Initiative permission to return 100 buffalo to the Blackfeet Reservation.
When we got back, waiting for us and all in celebration of these buffalo coming home.
Blessing ceremonies were held along the 400-mile route. One day later, the buffalo were released on the Montana plains.
That was a real great day for us.
They've been living here peacefully ever since. But 13 of them made a detour, continuing on to California's Oakland Zoo.
We were able to secure some of these to bring them here to Oakland for an incredible, not only exhibit, but really the educational purpose of why they're here.
Zoo CEO Nick DeHasia plans to return the 10 babies born and bred here to the Montana plains.
There is the red dog that was just born 24 hours ago. Watching this young one yesterday, literally within hours of birth, just trying to stand up and walk. And you can see that right now, getting her footing.
The goal is to increase this herd's size and even its territory. They'll begin by opening the boundary between Glacier National Park and the reservation, so they'll have free rein to roam the mountain range.
This is going to take a long time, but that's what we fight for every day.
A homecoming for 100 descendants of the original Plains buffalo is just a fraction of the millions that once lived there. But for the Blackfeet, it's a bold and bodacious start to restore the true American West. What does an animal roaming in the 21st century have to do with how you live today?
To me, it keeps our history and our culture alive. This is home to them, where they originated from, and we're traveled a big full circle to across the mountains to Canada to back here to home. So
it only took 100-something years.
Only took 100 and some years.
Now to New Jersey, where a school is hoping to build bridges between police and a student body that often distrusts those on patrol. Meg Oliver tells us more about this relationship-building partnership.
It's a grueling day of competition. From pedaling and punching to swimming, and it's all about trust. The day started at the crack of dawn at St. Benedict's Prep in Newark.
So what we're going to do is pair people up.
Where a new partnership was born between students and the New Jersey State Police.
Raise your hand if you feel nervous when you see a law enforcement officer.
In an effort to break down misconceptions, the school pairs students like 16-year-old Seth DeMatas with trooper Mike Gunther for a day of intense bonding.
Seth, when you first met your partner, what was your first impression?
He's a little bit smaller than me, of course.
Smaller, but the 5'7" trooper can bench almost twice his new partner's weight.
Do you trust law enforcement?
Not as much, no.
Why not?
Because of the recent stories and basically the influence that I'm growing up in as a dark-skinned male and a tall. I'm not programmed to trust the police, and even in my own opinions, I don't trust the police.
When you hear that, how does that make you feel?
That's why we're here today. You know, we're here to build those relationships with the community.
I am unbelievably proud of all of you.
It's a relationship Headmaster Father Edwin Leahy wants to nourish to improve the fabric and future of their community.
What are you hoping your students walk away with today?
I hope that they talk. I hope the drums start to beat about what these relationships that are being built between these kids. The kids talk to other kids talk to kids in their neighborhood and say, you know what, they're not what you think they are. And I hope that the police begin to think about some of these kids that they've encountered who have a face and a name when they have to deal with somebody in a difficult situation.
A face and a name, and a family.
A face and a name, brothers and sisters, parents or children, yep, all of that.
An exhausting experience that hopefully helps strangers continue seeing each other as partners.
This morning, they came up to you and put their arms around you. How did that make you feel?
It was awesome. It honestly was probably one of the highlights of my career in a very long time.
And when we come back, we take you to a farm in Michigan that's nurturing a unique ecosystem to help those who were formerly behind bars. A recent study shows that about a third of the people released from federal prison in 2010 were not able to find employment at all within 4 years of their release. But one Michigan nonprofit is cultivating opportunities for formerly incarcerated people on a farm. Nancy Chin introduces us to the man whose firsthand experience inspired him to plant seeds of change.
I love to saute it.
Yeah. It's harvest season once again for Melvin Parson. But here on his half-acre farm in Ypsilanti, Michigan, Parson isn't just growing kale and tomatoes. He's also growing opportunity. These are Parson's interns, taking pride in the fruits of their labor.
Then I put stuff over there in the compost.
Not just because of the seeds planted here, but in their own lives. They're among a handful of formerly incarcerated people working on the We the People Opportunity Farm, a nonprofit Parson founded in 2018.
Did you know anything about farming before you started this?
No. I couldn't even spell vegetable.
The farm partners with county agencies like the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office to hire people returning from incarceration for 9 months.
We're growing a lot of kale.
Parsons' mission: to break the cycle of incarceration by providing structure, a steady paycheck, and a community often missing for those re-entering society.
I've spent 13 years of my life incarcerated, and I've been homeless 3 times and battled substance abuse. And I felt what having my hands in the soil did to me internally, and maybe, just maybe, I can offer up something like this to folks coming home.
As many as 27% of formerly incarcerated Americans are out of work, according to the Prison Policy Initiative. It's why interns here are also coached on career building and financial literacy. Pony Bush has been in and out of prison for 30 years.
What's been the most surprising part about all of this?
Probably one seed make a lot of stuff grow. One seed make a big plant.
The vegetables, all grown organically and with the help of experienced farmhands, are sold to some of the area's most popular restaurants.
These 2 boxes are yours. How y'all doing?
Right here.
Thank you.
A portion is also donated to the community. Parson estimates this year's crop totaled 14,000 pounds, and he wants to keep growing.
One of your mission statements is to change the soil of the people that are here. What does that mean?
You can be a farmer that doesn't know what they're doing like I was and still am in a lot of ways. But if your soil is good, chances are your plants will flourish. And it dawned on me that the same thing applies to human beings.
Incarcerated when she was 17, LaWanda Hollister was released after serving 34 years in prison. Now 52, the world has changed.
You came home in May of 2020. What was that like?
Pandemic was still going on. I was simply grateful to be home and for the second chance, but where do I go from there?
Today, Hollister is harvesting kale. On other days, you'll find her at Eastern Michigan University. She hopes to start her own food truck business one day.
There's a lot of life lessons in farming. It's about taking care of a plant. It's about watering it. It's about nurturing it. It's about pruning it.
When you look at all of this, what do you see?
I see magic. I see hope. I see the audacity to dream. I see a future.
Finally, we take you to Utah, where treasured rock art has survived thousands of years, but are now threatened by vandals. These irreplaceable and ancient stone carvings are at risk of disappearing. Chris Van Cleve tells us about the efforts to protect the legacy of people long gone.
And you can see there's an anthro here.
Steve Acerson walks the West searching for rock art, ancient stone etchings known as petroglyphs depicting man's early history in North America, and they are increasingly endangered by modern man.
We have multiple rock art boulders up on this hillside that have been damaged from bullets impacts, and the images are actually being lost on these boulders.
Here in Utah, carvings made 4,000 years ago by the now extinct Fremont tribe fell victim to target practice.
We probably had 5 or 6 that are totally gone now.
If we can't connect to the land and what it's telling us, we are a lost people.
Eileen Quintana, a member of the Navajo Nation, works with Acerson.
So this whole hillside has been exposed to the gunfire.
Acerson reported the damage to the Bureau of Land Management, and his group, the Utah Rock Art Association, positioned boulders to shield the petroglyphs.
That way, when they shoot up here, the bullets will hit the clay or the dummy rock and protect the rock art image. Here's an owl or quail figure here.
But his small group can't be everywhere. 150 miles away in Moab, Utah, profanity defaced a carving celebrating the birth of a child 3,000 years ago. Nearby, a rock climber inserted bolts into another petroglyph. The climber claims he mistook a 1,000-year-old carving for modern-day graffiti.
Some of it is outright vandalism, some of it is profiteering, but some of it is just stupidity and ignorance.
Arizona Congressman Raul Grijalva wants to increase penalties for anyone damaging a petroglyph.
So what can Congress do? Congress can begin with resources to strengthen the preservation arm that looks at history and looks at cultural resources and sacred sites.
But there's not even a reliable count of the number of petroglyphs in this country, and most that have been found are in desolate areas, making them hard to police.
We do have some problem areas where once, one person carves their name, someone will come by and see that and they think that that's an acceptable practice.
Angela Richmond is a ranger in Arches National Park.
We see areas where you just get a bunch of names kind of piled on top of each other. And unfortunately, some of those are over, prehistoric rock art or markings, things that are, over 1,000 years old.
But criminal charges for their destruction are rare. Of 6 documented incidents this year, 1 resulted in charges that were filed, and efforts in Congress to better protect petroglyphs have failed in 3 recent attempts.
Why do you think there's been an issue in getting some of this through Congress, getting lands protected? I mean, if we were talking about dinosaur fossils, you'd probably have an easier time protecting the land.
There's profit involved. There's extraction, whether it is gas, natural gas, oil in some areas, mining in others, and there is a very powerful profit motive that drives those decisions.
The lichen and the...
As Steve Acerson continues his search for new rock art, he knows what it will take to protect the legacy of peoples long gone.
So it's going to have to be a cultural shift to where people realize that stuff needs to be protected and saved, because when it's lost, it's just like tearing a page out of a history book.
And potentially wiping away the last traces of those who came before us.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news 24/7, stream us right here on CBS News, available across all platforms. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for joining us for Eye on America.